In this video, we will be going over the standard template for the technology budget for 2025 to 27. This template provides a standard view for all project budget and fund sources and must be used by all projects under WATEC oversight. Once approved, WATEC will post this in the project record on the statewide IT dashboard. The technology budget is updated throughout the project when the scope, schedule, or budget changes. Let's get started. The spreadsheet contains several tabs where the project team will enter the data and review before submission. The structure and formulas in this file are protected for edits to maintain the template and data integrity. Instructions are provided on the top of each tab, and there is a separate Instructions tab with details for each tab. Let us start with the Instructions tab. This tab provides useful information and direction for each tab of the template, as well as instructions on how to complete the contents for gated and non-gated projects. Most tabs of the template provide additional tab-specific instructions and legislated requirements from the enacted budget. Let's look at the Inputs tab. In this tab, cells with a light yellow background are editable for you to enter project data. Cells with a light gray background are formula-based where no data entry is required. You will provide core information on the project on the left side of the tab. The agency name, project name, if the project is gated or non-gated, project start and end dates, and M&O start date. Gated funding projects will provide the details on the funded amount, proviso and non-appropriated amounts for the current biennium. Your total budgeted planned spend for the current biennium cannot exceed this funded amount. For financial tracking and reporting, all projects must provide AFRS details. The AFRS code and AFRS field for the project are entered in section I4 through J6. Gated funding projects will need to provide gate title, gate number, AFRS code, and field for each gate beginning in the current biennium in section G11 through J18. Total planned spend for the project is automatically calculated based on your resources, contracts, and other expenditures planned from the Budgeted Resources and Agency in Kind Resources tabs. Gated funding projects need to identify the holdback amount as recommended by legislative statute. This defaults to 15%. Discuss any changes with your assigned WATEC oversight consultant and OFM budget advisor. This template adds standard employee benefits as provided by OFM that are not changeable. This is added to each state employee's salary when calculating total project cost. A standard general wage increase of 2% is applied for FY27. Projects may change this as needed for better cost projections. Similarly, projects may identify other staff costs for travel, equipment, and other expenses that will be added to state employee salary when calculating total project cost. For programs and projects with appropriated funding at more than one agency, a new section is added for the lead agency to identify the unique program index for all projects and sub-projects. Lead agency will also list the agency and project name for the projects or sub-projects of such programs. Next, we will look at the Budgeted Resources tab. We will come back to the Summary and Historical Budget and Actuals tabs later in this video. All projects are required to estimate cost by month for the current biennium and by fiscal year for project duration beyond current biennium. See rows 1, 2, and 3 identifying the time periods. Estimated cost is recorded in 6 cost categories: state employee staffing costs, non-state employee staffing costs, contracted professional services, software licenses and subscriptions, hardware and equipment, and other, which can be used to capture expenses such as travel, training, and project contingency. Gated funding projects will use this tab for all estimated expenditures that are funded through legislated appropriation. Any additional expenditure covered through agency operating budgets need to be reflected on the Agency in Kind Resources tab. Non-gated funding projects will use this tab for all estimated expenditures and will not use the Agency in Kind Resources tab. For Section 1 State Employee Staffing Costs, select Position Title and step in column C and E. This will look up the range and salary and populate columns D and F. Column G. Benefits are auto-calculated based on employee benefits on the Inputs tab, and column H is auto-calculated based on the other staff costs on Inputs tab. You can manually overwrite any value in columns C through H as needed for your state employee costs. As you identify the staff positions needed, enter their full-time equivalent assignment level as a decimal form of the percentage allocation by month for the current biennium and at an annual level for future periods through the end of the project. Do not enter employee costs in this section. The tab will automatically calculate the state employee cost based on FTE assignment and the total salary and benefits visible in row 107, and total FTE count in row 108. You can unhide hidden rows as needed for additional state employee staff entries. Section 2 Non-state employee staffing costs is where you record estimated labor costs for project resources that are not state employees. Enter the contractor, staffing company, or service provider name in column C. A few words on the type of service they will provide in column E, contract start date, end date, and total contract amount in columns G, H, and I. Each expenditure record in this and subsequent sections must identify the sub-object code in column F. Contact your agency finance person for these details. In column J through close of project, enter the estimated cost in dollars for each row. The tab will calculate the total in row 138. Section 3 Contracted Professional Services section is where you enter the estimated cost of services needed for the project that are provided by external entities, companies, and service providers. For example, quality assurance or accessibility testing. Record your estimated costs in Section 3 by providing the name of the company, service type, sub-object code, begin and end date of the contract and the contract total amount in columns C through I. Then starting in column J, enter the estimated expenses by month for the current biennium and by year for the out years through the end of the project. For Section 4 Software Licenses and Subscriptions, and Section 5 Hardware and Equipment, entries are recorded similar to Section 3 by providing the name of the company, software or hardware category, sub-object code, begin and end date of the contract and the contract total amount in columns C through I. Starting in column J, enter the estimated costs. You may spread the costs through each month or enter the amounts in specific months or years based on your procurement and subscription terms, for example every 6 months. Record your other expenditures like travel, training, and contingency in Section 6 by providing the contractor or company name, service description, sub-object code, begin and end dates and total amount in column C. Through I enter the estimated costs in dollars beginning in column J through the end of the project. As you enter the estimated costs for each of the 6 categories, total estimated project cost will be auto-calculated in row 256. All projects gated or non-gated need to identify the sources of funds to cover all estimated project costs. Use rows 263 through 290 for fund sources by entering the fund name, 3-digit fund code, and type of fund in column G, H and I. Some commonly used funds are already entered for you in row 263 through 270. You can unhide rows to enter additional fund sources as applicable to your project. Enter the dollar amount for each fund beginning in column J through the end of the project. As you enter the amount for each fund, the total of all funds is auto-calculated in row 291. The total of fund sources must exactly cover the total estimated project cost for each fiscal period, month, or year. You will see a true in row 294 when it matches. A false in row 294 will indicate a mismatch requiring a correction. Gated funding projects must identify the gate number for each fiscal period in row 4. You should work with your WATEC oversight consultant and OFM budget advisor for guidance. Available gate numbers in the drop-down in this row are based on the gates identified on the Inputs tab. As you select the gate numbers, the tab will draw a red vertical line between the fiscal period of the gates to clearly identify each gate. Non-gated projects must select 0 as the gate number in row 4 for the entire duration of the project. The next tab, Agency in Kind Resources, is structured like the Budgeted Resources tab. This is used only for gated funding projects to estimate project costs that are paid through the agency operating budget and not funded through legislated appropriation. This tab has the same 6 cost categories as the Budgeted Resources tab. State employee staffing costs, non-state employee staffing costs, contracted professional services, software licenses and subscriptions, hardware and equipment, and other, which can be used to capture expenses such as travel, training, and contingency. Follow the directions shared in the Budgeted Resources tab portion of this video to complete this tab. Note that the gate numbers on this tab are automatically filled from the Budgeted Resources tab. Projects continuing from prior fiscal periods, before July 1, 2025, must provide budget and actual expenses in the Historical Budget and Actuals tab for each fiscal year period. All such projects must provide a historical budget in row 14, budgeted fund sources in row 16 through row 42. Project will also provide historical budgeted expenditures in row 46 and fund sources covering these expenditures in row 48 through 75. Gated projects also need to provide agency in kind actual expenditures in row 12. This tab will auto-calculate the budgeted variance in row 78. The Summary tab shows summarized project cost and fund sources by fiscal year, and by gate for gated projects, and is auto-populated based on the data entered on other tabs. There is no data to be entered on this tab, however you should familiarize yourself with the available summary. The first two tables are applicable to all projects and show total estimates from the Budgeted Resources tab by fiscal year followed by fund sources. You should verify that the total of estimated expenses matches fund sources, and that the tab reflects true in row 46. The following tables are applicable to gated projects only and show estimated budget and fund sources by gate, applicable holdback and release amounts, agency in kind resource estimates, and total planned spend by gate and fiscal year. The gate summary table at the bottom of this tab shows the dates and amounts for each gate. Let's look at the M&O tab. In addition to the estimated project cost and fund sources, all projects are required to estimate the cost of maintaining and operating the resulting system for at least 5 full years after implementation. Use the M&O tab to provide estimated FTEs needed in row 10 and estimated expenses in rows 12 through 17. Unhide columns to view additional fiscal years as needed. You will need to identify the first full fiscal year of M&O in cell D7 to confirm you have at least 5 years of M&O estimated. The column headers in row 8 will highlight to show these 5 years. This will also automatically calculate the totals in row 18, and the annual M&O cost for the Inputs tab. Once you have estimated the M&O costs, you must identify the sources of funds to cover these expenses. Complete the fund source entries by fiscal year in row 22 through 49, unhide rows as needed. The total of all fund sources in row 50 must exactly match the total estimated cost in row 18 and reflect true in row 52. A false in this row indicates a mismatch requiring correction. The 447 Fund Sources tab is used by gated projects that are funded through the IT Revolving Account Fund 447, also known as the IT Pool. Such projects must identify the fund sources that were transferred into the IT revolving account by fiscal year for the current biennium. You can unhide rows if the funds are transferred from additional accounts. The tab will automatically total the amounts by fiscal year in row 36 and compare this with the entries on the Budgeted Resources tab for Fund 447. These entries must match and result in a true in row 38. Contact your agency finance person and OFM budget advisor for more information. While estimating the cost of the project and M&O, projects make various assumptions regarding staff availability, professional services contracts, software licenses, and more. You should record these in the Assumptions tab in their respective categories as free-form text entries. The Assumptions tab has specific sections for budgeted resources, M&O, agency in kind resources, and deliverables. Gated funding projects must identify deliverables for each gate of the project and estimate the start date and estimated completion date of the deliverable. These deliverables should align with the phase of the project, for example planning, procurement, implementation, user acceptance testing, and represent the value of the resources utilized in the gate. You may identify up to 20 deliverables for each gate, however, the number and type of deliverable varies by project and by gate activities. You should work with your assigned WATEC oversight consultant and OFM budget advisor. Completed deliverables must be posted on the statewide IT dashboard to meet transparency and visibility objectives, and these will be verified by WATEC for gate certification and subsequent release of funds by OFM. Let's now look at the Amendment Log tab. As the project progresses, the cost estimates will be refined and revised. You will get a better understanding of the requirements and design. As you select the vendor, the software, resources, and other needs may change. The technology budget must be amended to reflect revised cost estimates and include the rationale for the change. With each amendment, you will need to complete this tab by providing the date of the amendment and by filling in the cost estimated from the Inputs tab of the last approved technology budget. This tab will auto-calculate the revised project cost from the Inputs tab in cells D13 through F14, and the net change in row 15. You will need to provide a free-form text response to the 5 questions. What changed? Why was there a change? How does this impact the scope, the schedule, and the budget of the project? Thank you for walking through the technology budget with us. Please go to the IT project oversight at watec.wa.gov for more information.